Hi everyone, it's Kristen. So we are continuing our Valentine's series using this DC Valentine's Day book from 2018. It contains like short little original Valentine's Day stories with DC characters. And even though I'm wearing a scarlet shirt, well, I'm talking about DC characters, but as I said in my other video, this is like the only like pink superhero shirt I have, so I thought, well, it's better than nothing, So anyway, basically, I talked about like monsters in the first one, like Swamp Thing, which it's ironic because they have Swamp Thing kissing the bride of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's looking on like, oh my gosh, but of course that didn't happen in the comic books. But I did talk about their stories separately in the first video. And in this video, we are going to talk about like stories that happen in the Batman universe. So the first one is going to be about, let me find it first. The first one we're going to be talking about is Man-Bat. He actually was like 1970 when he was created, and it's like Kirk Langstrom, I think. He's like a zoologist that tried to give humans like bats sonic abilities, sonar abilities, and he created a formula and he tested on himself, and of course it didn't have the results he wanted it to. Sometimes Man-Bat is like completely like an animal, like he has no like human perception, and sometimes he actually has like retains some control, and he actually has done good before. So basically Batman, being Batman, is fighting him, and he tries to reason with him, because that's what heroes do. They try to reason first, at least. And he's like, Kirk, think about it, Kirk. Like, take control, Kirk. Think of Francine. Francine is his wife. And he's like, please, Kirk, for your wife, please. And he's like, saying, for Francine. Like, Man-Bat says that. And he wakes up, and he's like, kind of has this, like, almost hangover. And there's a Man-Bat. He's there, but he's not there. And he's like, Kurt's like, what happened? And Man-Bat's like, scared. Don't worry, Kurt. It was just a dream. And he's like, go away. And he's like, Man-Bat's like, I'm only here because you want me to be here, Kurt. You've been cold turkey on the formula for a couple days. Good for you. But we both know it doesn't matter. She'll see right through it. And he's like, just go away. It's like, there are better times you could be spending your time on, Kurt, like me. Anyway, so, okay, Man-Bat in this situation kind of reminds me of two Spider-Man villains. Green Goblin, who was, I think, it was pretty early on in Spider-Man's career, 1964, I think. It reminds me of Green Goblin because, the Green Goblin, you take the serum to, make yourself more powerful, and there's this voice, this nagging in your head, like, and they're like there in front of you, but they're not there. And it's Green Goblin's telling you what he basically wants you to do, what he thinks you should do, which is really what he wants you to do. So it reminds me of that, and Dr. Kurt Connors, the lizard, because he tried to use the lizard's ability to like regrow their tails in order to regrow his arm. And of course he tested the serum on himself. It worked, but with disastrous results, kind of like Man-Bat. And most of the time he's not in control when he's in his lizard form. And I think that actually was really early on in Spider-Man's career too. I think that was actually the same year that Spider-Man premiered, 1963, I think. So I feel like Man-Bat is like a combination of those two characters, especially in this story. You see it. And Man-Bat is following him and saying, like, come on, Kurt, let loose. I mean, you could be flying, gliding on the clouds, drifting over everyone. And he sees Francine in the window, waves to her, goes in, and he's like, you look good. Is that, a new hairstyle? And she's like, yeah, I'm growing it out. And he's like, oh, okay. And she's like, so how are things? And he's like, good, they're really good. And Man-Bat behind him is like, lies. He's like, and Francine says, well, that's great. I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, she's sincere in that. And Kurt says, yeah, I've really turned a corner, Francine. I mean, I understand why you had to leave, but I'm better now. I've been off. And then he straight up lies to her because remember, just a couple pages ago, Man-Bat's like, well, you've been off the formula for a couple days. Good for you. And he straight up lies to Francine and says, I've been off the formula for 3 months. And I feel great. I don't need it. And he's like, and plus, I love you, Francine. And, technically we're still married. And Francine cuts him off and says, it's good to see you, Kurt, and I'm glad you're doing well. I really mean it, but I don't want to revisit us at this point. Like, I don't want to go down that road again. Because of course it kind of feels like, to me, like an addiction. I've never gone through that, so I can't completely speak to that, but this is kind of what, seems like he's addicted to this formula. And of course, I'm sure he's put her through, hell, being addicted to this formula and transforming into this creature. I mean, that would be really hard to deal with, honestly. Francine just continues and says, I've told you before, this isn't a break. Like, I need to move on with my life. And the truth is, I've met someone. And he's like, oh, and Man-Bat even is like behind him, like shocked, like screeched, like, what? And, Francine tries to double back and say, I'm really happy you're off the formula, but and Kurt just is like, I shouldn't have called you. I should go. So he gets up and leaves. And Man-Bat, back at his place, he's like, you don't need her anyway. You have me. I'm the only one who's always been here for you. I'm not going to abandon you ever. And Kurt is like, you're the only one that's ever loved me. And Man-Bat's like, yes, exactly, Kurt. I'm the one that's always been here for you. Francine doesn't know what she's missing. She doesn't know what she's passing on. But I know how much, I know everything you are and could be with me. And so Man-Bat's like, go on, Kurt. Set us free. We'll do it together. And he's like, take control. And Kurt's like, control. And then Man-Bat in the back is like, what are you doing? Because he has it, he's almost going to drink it, and then he puts it down. And Kurt's like, I'm taking control. And Man-Bat's like, but Francine, basically, she doesn't care about you. And he's like, I'm doing it for me. And then you see what movie he's watching on TV, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is kind of, what this whole situation, I guess, is reminiscent of. It's a nod to it. So I just thought that was an interesting story that they put that in here. Yeah, but I mean, I liked it as a short story. But it was interesting. Okay, so let me find the next story. Like I said, I'm not going in order of the book, so I apologize if these videos seem a little bit jumpy, but like I said, I'm not going in order, so let me... Okay, so the next one, Catwoman reminisces about the day she first met Batman, and it happens to be on a Valentine's Day, like forever ago. So she's sitting on this rooftop with stolen goods, waiting for her partner, and this billboard behind her says, Happy Valentine's Day, get her all that she deserves. And Catwoman says, what if she deserves nothing? So, I mean, we've talked about Catwoman before in the psychology of supervillains, and all that she went through and why she became the way she is. So if you want to, learn more about that, you should check that video out. So anyway, she's reminiscing because it's Valentine's Day. And she is thinking about, well, that she's an idiot for using a partner because she hasn't used a partner in quite a while. And she says it makes her think of the Sunnyside job, the one where she first met Batman. So it says another February 14th, long ago. So she's looking in the shop window with this guy, and she sees these boots that she just loves. So she's like, oh my gosh, I have to have those boots. They're like fur trimmed and everything. And this security officer, policeman, is like, yeah, those boots, they're like $3,000. The same boots you can get like a couple blocks from here for $50. Basically go back to where you came from. So, basically she, the Sunnyside she's talking about is it's a housing project. And her partner actually lives there, and that's how he knew about this. And it's, it's a nice neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood considering, it's neat and clean. No garbage, but, it's not the nicest place, obviously. It's built in the shadow, it says, of of abandoned Gothic cathedral, beloved landmark with no money to save it from ruin. So kind of like Sunnyside. It's nice. People like living there, but they can't make it any better. There's no money to make it better. But so living in the projects, this guy who actually lives in this building, he knows about the woman who runs it. A lot of people get their TVs or stereos or whatever repossessed, and so she saves them for them, puts them in this storage space, gives the residents a couple days to get them out of storage. Like she's nice like that. So basically, that's what they're stealing, is all these people's repossessed TV stereos of the housing project. And the guy's like, I know where we can take these so that we can get you those boots. And Batman shows up and said, you think so? And the guy's like, run, And Catwoman's like, I've heard of you. You're Batman. And again, he's like, run. And she's like, no, we can take him. There's two of us, only one of him. And she's like, go ahead, punch him. So the guy punches him. She kicks him. And he's like, Batman's not really fazed. He's like, you got spunk. How did you know about this stuff? And he's like, the guy's like, scared. And he's like, I live here. He's like, so this is your TV? Like, in your family's van? Your stereo? And he's like, no. And Batman's like, return it all now. I'll be watching. And Catwoman's like, no one tells me what to do. You can babysit this junk if you want. I'm gone. So she leaves. She's like thinking to herself, wow, like he's really like exciting, like hot. But he's also a bully. And she's like, I hate bullies. So she catches him on the chin. And so she's thinking, well, no one returns to the scene of the crime, so I'll just kind of slip away, hide in the cathedral that's near there, and then double back later. And Batman's like, if you're thinking that no criminal returns to the scene of the crime, you're wrong, because statistically, most criminals return to the scene of the crime. It must be like a guilt complex or something. Are you feeling guilty? And she's like, hands off, get away from me. And so they fall through the stained glass window, and Batman's like, I've got you, don't worry. And basically what happened is Batman tried to, to tell her, to give her a lesson in stealing, basically. He's like, You know, why are you stealing from these people? These people who basically this TV is their whole life, so to speak. Like the kid gets up, watches cartoons, the mom watches her shows, her talk shows while she cooks and cleans while the kids are at school. Her man comes home and watches sports in the evening. Like their life revolves around kind of this TV. And you're just going to take that from them so that you can have boots, like new boots. And he's like, think about who you're stealing from. You know, you're good, but you need practice, you need training. You need to think about these things before you actually, you know, before you actually. And it's funny because, and he said, you learn these things, the quicker you'll come to me, to my side. And she's like, right, okay. And then she says something like, that was then, and I never did think it through. And, you know, back to him. No wonder I never see him around anymore. So granted, you know, this was 2018, and now, well, just recently, 2022, Batman and Catwoman got married, so obviously she did find her way back to him. So I just, you know, it was just interesting. I mean, that they threw that little one in there, about how they supposedly first met, in the lesson he tried to instill in her. And so, I mean, pretty much because, you know, for the most part, she steals from the rich, from people who can afford to lose stuff. She, you know, so she says. So she's, you know, she's more that way than she thinks. So the next story is about Batgirl. Okay, and I found this one a little bit interesting too. I mean, anyway, so here we have this guy. He's attempting to steal a car, and Batgirl says, "Let me guess. This isn't what it looks like, Ricky." And she's like, "Come on, Ricky. I thought you were, you know, on the straight and narrow now." And he's like, "Well, I wasn't really going to steal it. I was just kind of waiting around for you." And she's like, "Why? Like, I don't understand." And she also says, you know, look, if you're, you know, having trouble, you know, I can help you, like, locate a job center. If you, you know, are having trouble with gangs, we can figure something out. Just don't go back to, you know, a life of crime. And he's like, well, I wasn't really going to take it. I just was hoping you show up. And then these guys show up, like, with weapons. It's hard to see because that panel's so white. One has a bat, one has a knife, one has a crowbar. And, you know, Batgirl defeats them pretty easily. And she's like, I swear, Ricky, if you set this up, like, if you're in trouble with these guys and you set it up so that I would come rescue you, and he's like, I promise I had nothing to do with it. They must have been following me. And she's like, well, then, you know, why? Why were you waiting for me? He's like, well, and this is funny. Like, last time we met, you know, it was months ago, and I mean, you kissed me, and ever since then, like, she's like, let me stop you right there. I kissed you to stop you from being branded a snitch. You know, I kissed you to keep you safe, which seems like a stretch, but, you know, I mean, I guess if you're hanging around with Batgirl, people are going to think as a criminal that you're one of the good guys. But I guess if they see Batgirl kissing you, then it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, they're like together, they have a thing, so he's not really like on the straight and narrow. I don't know. That just seems weird though, but okay. And he's like, yeah, ever since then, you know, I can't stop thinking about you. I think about that kiss all the time, and just, you know, he says, I'll pass a redhead on the street and I'll think maybe it's you, and I'll want to ask her out. And Batgirl's like, I'm really sorry, but, you know, that kiss wasn't about romance. And he's like, oh, you're married, or she's like, no, nothing like that. I don't have time to date. Like, I'm too busy. Like, and besides, you know, you don't even know who I am. She's like, this hair, this red hair, it could be a wig for all you know. You don't know me at all. And plus, you know, even if I were like a normal girl, do you really think I would, you know, go out with someone like you, even if you are cute? But me being who I am, you know, I can't date you. And he's like, oh, well, fine. But, you know, I don't have to know who you are, but I just want you to know you gave me the best kiss of my life. Which, I honestly can't tell you what the best kiss of my life was. I guess I'm still waiting for that to happen because there's no kiss, honestly, that has stood out. Like, that's just like, wow, like I remember that kiss. Granted, though, I've been single for a while, so that might have something to do with it. Anyway, so Ricky's like, you know, and I mean, that was the best kiss of my life, and I'd kick myself if I didn't, you know, take another chance with it. And like, he's like, so how, you know, just for fun. And she's like, what the hell? And so she kisses him again. Wow. Like, that kiss was said. And he's like, I know, probably all puffed up thinking, yeah, I'm an awesome actor. I'm great at this. And he's like, well, I mean, I still say, I think we should just, you know, I'd kick myself if I didn't suggest this. I think we should just sit here and make out until the sun comes up. And she's like, breaks over Ricky. I gotta go. Like, I have work to do. And he's like, well, maybe I'm still dreaming here, but what about this? Like, maybe someday you'll come up to me in, you know, your normal everyday clothes, whoever you are, and ask me out, and I'll say yes. And then we'll go to dinner, and we'll go see a movie, and we'll kiss, and we'll do that all the time. And she's like, dream on, Ricky, dream on. Which, I don't know, that was kind of a, you know, I mean, abrupt way to end it. Just like, you know, no, that's never going to happen. But I guess, true, it's never going to happen because he is who he is, you know, basically a criminal, so to speak. And she's Batgirl, so they can't really be in a relationship together. But it's interesting that just ended right there. But I just thought that was a little interesting story. And then the next one we're going to do is Nightwing. And this story is interesting. I mean, it kind of, I guess, kind of speaks to being a superhero. And so in the city, he found trouble. And so he is actually on the phone too. And the voice on the phone says, this is the 5th time this month, Dick Grayson. And he's like, I know. And she's like, I've only known you for a month. He's like, I know. She's like, if you don't want to see me. And he's like, it's not that. It's just, well, my life's a little bit complicated. And of course, you know, most people know the origin of, you know, Dick Grayson, the original Robin. You know, he's like, trust me, there's nothing more I'd rather do than go to dinner with you. And she's like, just don't. And she's like, I just don't think we're a good fit. And he's like, well, we only went out twice. And she's like, exactly. We're clearly not on the same page. He's like, so you're calling it quits, really, Jen? And she's like, yep, good luck. I hope you find someone who gets you. So that's the conversation that happens on this page. And we see Nightwing, you know, taking on all these goons. And then there's this girl here, and this guy calls her Ursa. You know, and they're fighting alongside each other while he has this fairly intimate conversation. Intimate / kind of a little bit embarrassing of a conversation. Yeah, so she's like, Ursa, after they knocked out all the bad guys, says, "You didn't tell her, did you?" She's like, "Sorry, I know those calls." She's like, and he's like, "And you are?" And the guy walks up to her and says, "It's Ursa." It's apparently his name's Mr. Reese. And he's like, "I want to thank you so much, again, for your help, for your protection. Once more, I'm in your debt. You and Mr." And he's like, introduces himself, Nightwing. He's like, "Well, your help is much appreciated. If you're ever looking for work in the private industry, protections sector, you and Ursa would make a really good pair." And Nightwing's like, thanks. Like, he's not sure what to think about that. And Ursa's like, "We need to get you to the hospital, Mr. Reese." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. I understand. But after, make sure that you don't let this night go to waste. Because I know you don't have very many chances, like at a, normal life. You don't get out much." And he's like, "Okay, sure." So after taking Reese to the hospital, they're sitting up here eating Chinese food in the snow. Just like normal. And so he like wants to know about her, and he's like, "So, you're a bodyguard then?" And she's like, "Protection specialist." And he's like, "Are you ex-military?" "I'm leaning towards a Marine. You have the look about you." And the code name, Ursa Major, is that like the Great Bear? And she's like, "I was trying to be nice since you just got dumped and all." And he's like, "I didn't get dumped. But if you're going to ask me a million questions, then," and, she's like, "It's better to enjoy the moments you have than dwell on the ones that you miss." And he says, like, "Two awesome people with a lot in common sharing Chinese takeout in the snow." And she's like, "Don't flatter yourself. You're not that awesome." And so they spend some time, we don't know how much time passes, but like, going from rooftop to rooftop, basically using their skills and stuff. And as they end, at another rooftop, he says, "That was fun." She's like, "Yeah, it was. We should do it again sometime." And he's like, "How about tomorrow night? I'll bring pizza." And she's like, "On one condition, no pepperoni," as she leaves. Which I'm like, "Oh, pepperoni, no pepperoni. I love pepperoni. That's my favorite." Anyway, and then he's like, "Not too terrible, Grayson. Not too terrible at all." And this is so sad. And then you see him on that rooftop with the pizza, waiting. And that's where it ends. Like, she never shows up. He got stood up. So he was all hopeful and thinking, "Oh, this is going to work out great." And then he gets stood up. And she never shows up, which is so sad. Yeah. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been stood up before, though. So it kind of, like I said, it was an interesting, more of a human story, because he had the breakup call, and then he got stood up, which, interestingly enough, I didn't know this character, Ursa, and I looked her up, and like the only Ursa I could find in DC Comics was a Superman villain. She was in the Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. Maybe not that far back, but anyway, she was in the Superman movie. She was like a lieutenant of General Zod or whatever. And then they introduced her to the comics later, but she's a Kryptonian soldier. She's not like this bodyguard. She's a supervillain. So I don't know who this is. I don't know if they just kind of borrowed her likeness for this one little story, or if she's a different character entirely that I just don't know about, because that's possible. But anyway, so I think that's all the Batman related stories for the most part in this issue. So I think next there's a couple more random stories that I'd like to do. They don't really fit into the monster or the Batman character family. So I'd like to do those. Or maybe I'll do like the Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman ones next. So anyway, I'll say it in the title which one I decide to do next. But I hope you will join me for those. Until next time. Bye.